Hi folks, I'm not near my computer, but I had some downtime and I wanted to talk about how to think differently about the war in Ukraine. So this thought was triggered by an alert viewer who got back to me after a video that we did the other day where we were talking about how six deputy defense ministers were dismissed. And I said, I don't perceive any corruption or anything along those lines, but they were dismissed and we'll find out why. And this viewer told me that it is common practice in Ukraine for when a new defense minister comes in for them to get to pick their team. And that makes total sense. From the outside looking in, you wouldn't have necessarily known that. So you have to think differently, and then you have to question your assumptions. So, for example, you keep reading things with pro-Russian propagandists talking about, well, Ukraine, they're a banana republic. They're not even holding elections. Well, Ukraine can't hold elections during martial law, and so you have to understand that that is actually, in fact, the legislation. And so if that's the case, then that changes the way that you view it. I was reading RT yesterday, and they said that Ukraine lost 17,000 soldiers in September. Now that seems pretty high. That 17,000 in September would be 566 a day, and that doesn't sound right. And they also went on in that same article to talk about how they lost 83,000 in the 119 days since the counteroffensive began. That's 697 a day. That also sounds not right. That sounds way too high. So if you lie, before too long, the math will find them out, right? I mean, there's no way that they can sustain that kind of lying about casualties. And if it is actual, which I don't think it is, but if it was actual, they couldn't sustain, Ukraine wouldn't be able to sustain that. And that's the narrative that they're trying to paint. It's kind of like, but it's confusing, kind of like Sokolov. We don't know whether Admiral Sokolov is alive or dead. The New York Times just came out about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, with an article talking about how they put out another picture of Sokolov, but they didn't actually put out anything that would allow us to verify. Like if he was saying, yep, you hit the headquarters building, but you missed me, that would be evidence enough to say, well, I guess he's really alive. What they put out was a picture of him talking about something not really relevant or able to show that there's any date. And if he is dead, then you can't keep up that hoax forever. So you got to be careful with that kind of thing. I want to talk about one more thing with thinking differently. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Rumble. Now, Rumble, if you have been out on Rumble, and in fact, it just goes from YouTube directly to Rumble. But if you've been out on Rumble, you'll find that it is a bastion of pro-Russian sentiment. But I'm there, and I'm number, I think, 17th. I'm tied for 17th. If you just Google or just type in Ukraine, I'll come up as a 17th person. If you are on Rumble, can I ask you to do me a favor and just subscribe so it bumps it up in the ranks so other people can spread that message, or so my message about Ukraine, pro-Ukraine, can spread in a pretty dark place, considering for people who might be interested in the subject of Ukraine. I'd appreciate that. Thank you for your time and the likes and the shares and the subscribes, and thank you most of all for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.